there. So, Crystel, I'm sure you're going to come back in a second. So thanks so much for having me today, and very much hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the webinar. It's a sunny day here in Dublin, and it must be the same for you guys across Ireland. So thanks so much for taking the time in a sunny day. I was delighted to be invited by Crystel and HRLocker to talk about sustainability. It is something I'm very passionate about. So my name is Clémence, and I'm the head of operation and sustainability at Guaranteed Irish. Crystel, you're back.
Apologies, my electricity just dropped. So
no worries.
Patience.
All good.
Okay, good.
All good. I kind of figured out I was still live and you were the one gone. So I kind of like decided to share the slides and start. So I was saying that I'm head of operation and sustainability at Guaranteed Irish. I come from a business and operations background, and I worked with small business in the UK and Ireland. Sustainability has always interested me, and I did a postgraduate certificate in sustainability and enterprise with University City Cork in 2022, and that was a great experience. Got me to learn a lot about all the frameworks and all the acronyms, because there's a lot of acronyms for sustainability, and I loved it. But then I went back to having more of an operational business role, and then I figured out it was quite hard to put all those framework in place and all those acronyms, trying to then really make a difference. When you go into the boardroom and you're trying to decide, okay, what do I actually need to do next? It's quite hard to really realize that and, to put yourself into action. So this is why then I kind of like worked with Guaranteed Irish into developing the roadmap, is to try to really have a practical approach to sustainability for businesses and for members. So this is what we're going to discuss today. And I hope at the end of this presentation, you'll be really confident in being able to describe the great work your business is doing already, because you'll see you probably are doing a lot already, and also comfortable into deciding what are you going to do next. So that's my introduction, but because I'm from Guaranteed Irish, it wouldn't be fair not to give you a bit of details about Guaranteed Irish. So we are the national symbol of trust. The symbol is awarded to business based in Ireland. So they could be multinational businesses based in Ireland or homegrown businesses. And we support the businesses needs to support sustainable jobs, contribute to their local economy, and to be committed to the Irish provenance. We champion more than 2,000 businesses like HRLocker, and in total, we represent 120 employees. So there's a lot of opportunity for me to talk to sustainability with all those employees there from our members. But what's really important for us is that we believe our businesses have the ability to affect positive change in the community. So we recently worked with KPMG to put some stats behind that. And I'm going to show you the stats now. So for every €1,000 generated by a Guaranteed Irish member business, it supports a further €500 into the Irish economy. And that is through salaries and supply chain. And then for every 100 jobs in the Guaranteed Irish businesses, a further 49 jobs are supported across Ireland. And that's a lot through the supply chain effect. So we almost have a multiplier of 1.5 in the kind of like turnover and the job creation. And in terms of social impact, we've calculated that all our members' businesses together contribute to 59 million back into their community every year. So this is a significant impact, and we're really proud to all our members and all what they're doing. But we couldn't stand on those numbers if we hadn't have a very good assessment process. And so all our member businesses, when they receive the Guaranteed Irish license, they must apply to us, and they must give us information on jobs. So do they offer quality local jobs to their employees? Then we are assessing them on the community aspect. Are they supporting their community? Are they giving back time, money? Are they contributing to their local GAA clubs? We want to know all about that. Then we have the provenance. The provenance is about, is the businesses based in Ireland? Are they going to have a business plan about developing their business in Ireland? Are they going to contribute to the business economy? To the Irish economy. So that's very important to us as well. And then the last one is sustainability. Are they on a journey to become a more sustainable business? So that's what's really important to us. And Crystel is actually one of our advisors on this committee. So it's great to be doing the webinar with you, Crystel, on this. And so you can see 4 bubbles at the top there of the slides, and those are the SDGs, so UN SDG, and it's one of the first framework I'm going to introduce to you guys today. So it's the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. They are one of the framework you're going to hear the most about, I think. They're the most widely used and accessible sustainability framework. There's 17 goals in totals, and Guaranteed Irish has aligned themselves with 4 of them. The goals are for countries and businesses, and all together they're working towards achieving all of them by 2030. So the deadline is coming up for sure on this. And what's interesting is that most businesses will be able to align themselves with like between 3 and 6 of those goals, and that'll be a nice way to start thinking about how your business is impacting sustainability, or how sustainability is impacting your business. So that's one of the first kind of framework we recommend to use, and I'm going to discuss this in a bit more. But before we go into the roadmap in more detail, I want to take the scene, and I want to ask 2 questions. I want to ask, what is sustainability, and why are we doing sustainability? So what is sustainability? That's where let's try to do a bit of work for Crystel. Can I ask you guys to put in the chat box, what comes to your mind when I say sustainability? What are the few words that, come to your mind? And Crystel, you might be able to read them better than I do, because I'm not sure where my kind of Zoom is gone now. But if you guys find your chat box and put together the few words that come to mind there, and it's interesting then to see if you put them as opportunity or as risk.
Mm-hmm. I suppose even just to get yourself, so I suppose for me, when I think of sustainability, I straight away go to the kind of green side of things. So in terms of sustainable energy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Environment is usually very much linked to sustainability, isn't it? That's probably one of the first thing we think about, but there's a bit more to it. I don't know if you guys found your chat box there.
I am. Chat box is disabled. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Or wherever you put your questions.
Who said that to me? How do I enable this? So thank you very much. So everyone, okay. It should be enabled there for.
That's nowhere. Anyway.
Yeah. So
I'm sure it's around energy and the environment and biodiversity and risk. A lot of the time when we talk about sustainability, it's all those things that come up. But I want to show you that sustainability encompasses a lot of elements. So we sometimes associate sustainability with ESG. So ESG is environmental, social, and governance. And that covers things that are way wider than just the environment. And that's, I think, what's very interesting and important for business to remember. So when you think about the E, environment, that will cover things like your carbon footprint, your energy efficiency, your waste, and how you manage your natural resources, your impact on biodiversity. So that's kind of very wide there. Then social is all about your people, your employees, your customer, your suppliers, and how you manage diversity, inclusion, well-being, human rights. That's something HRLocker is definitely a leader there and can help you with all of that. And then governance looks at how the business is run. So it's all about your ethics, transparency, management, board structure, if you have a board, and risk management. It's a very important part of sustainability is risk management. So those 3 pillars together, they give you a well-rounded view of what we're going to look at, and in a way also gives you a bit of a fright in that sense that, oh my God, there's a lot there to be covered, and how can just one document help me decide what to do next? But this is what we're trying to achieve. But the next question is really, why are we trying to achieve this? And that's where I want you to really think about sustainability as an opportunity for your business. There's a lot to say about how going through a sustainability strategy, establishing your own sustainability roadmap will really help your business being more resilient in the future and gain more customers in the future. So I've kind of listed one, two, three, six example there, but you know, there's a lot more out there. You know, we could spend probably the full hour on just this slide, but I'll just give you an overview there. Additional financing. Banks have put in place a lot of like green loans, and it's the same here in Ireland. You got the Green Transition Finance and Growth and Sustainability Loan Scheme that are helping getting access to cheaper finance to fund sustainability initiatives. But more importantly, in the future, banks are going to look like your ESG credential and give you like cheaper rates to borrow money, and so give you more assets then to develop your business. So it's interesting for you to start now the process so that in the future you can have access to cheaper funds and cheaper money for your business. Improving stakeholder relationship. This one, I kind of focus it a lot on your employees. But it's your employees, customers, local communities. If you have great ESG credential, if you are doing a lot in sustainability, your employees will be more loyal, your customers the same, and your community will welcome you even more within the locality. A study by Deloitte recently showed that 49% of the Gen Z and millennials prioritize environmental and social values when choosing employers. So when you hire people, it's important, but I'd say it's very important as well to retain people. The next one is to improve your reputation. Sustainability definitely helps as a reputational aspect. It both ways, actually. You know, greenwashing can really destroy your reputation as well. But if you're doing it right, it can really help. I mean, we all have examples like Patagonia or IKEA that really kind of like strengthened their brand there and their branding around sustainability, and have really driven brand loyalty. So that is something to keep in mind as well. Business resilience, for me, it's a big one, especially with the last few years that we had. If you were to look at developing a sustainability strategy, working on your roadmap, you would have to do a big risk analysis of your business and how is your business going to cope with the different ESG elements we talked about earlier, and the different scenarios there for, you know, a changing climate, but also a different social environment and political environment. Like the last 100 days have been very different to the one before. So if you were to do your sustainability roadmap, you would have had to look at all those risks, and you would have put coping mechanism and plan in place to assess all those risks and make sure you can cope within when the risk happen. And if you take Ireland, just back in January when Storm Owen came across and we had 850,000 houses and businesses without electricity, if you didn't have a plan in place about how you're going to cope without electricity, you're probably not going to be able to do your business for a few days or a few weeks for some instance. So it's very important to take that into consideration. But it also could be just because the road, you know, you're not impacted for electricity, but the roads are closed. How are you going to deliver your goods? So it's important that you have strategies in place, and the more you keep your consumers and customers informed, the better you're going to be. So your reputation there is going to be better, but also the way you manage to be more resilient and keep the business going, that's going to gain you new business in the future. Because when someone's going to choose between two suppliers, if that supplier has managed to still deliver goods during Storm Owen, they're going to choose you. So it's very important that you think about sustainability that way. The next one is energy savings and resource efficiencies. We talk a lot about energy with sustainability and net zero. So there is that objective there in terms of like reducing our energy consumption, reducing our fossil fuel consumption, and transitioning to green energy that are cheaper. So that will improve your margin at the end of the day. So that's always good for business. And the last one is to enter new supply chains. So that's this is linked to a lot of like green procurement, for instance. So the Irish government has started like implementing green procurement, where you will be asked questions around your E, S, and the G credential and what you're doing in the space. I have to say it is a lot still cost driven. I'm not going to lie, you know, it's always about the cost of the product, but between two products at the same cost, then those ESG criteria are going to make the difference. And it's all about winning the business. So if you can prove that you can have, you know, your your product is a great cost, but you can do all those other things on the side, or the way your product is made or service is supplied is better for the environment and the social aspect of community life, then you'll have a more chance to win the business for sure. So green procurement, but also most procurement, like private procurements like Musgrave, they've just launched this week their sustainability supplier program to make sure all their suppliers have ESG at heart of what when they produce the goods for them. So you can see that all the big supply chain in Ireland there are now also asking for ESG to be taken into account. So this is important. You think about this as you pitch for new business and as you pitch to enter big supply chain. Of course, into the supply chain element, we have to talk about CSRD, which is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive there. You may have heard that there was a big regulation coming in all over Europe, and that a lot of companies above 250 employees and 50 million turnover were going to be scoped within this new regulation, and that they will have had to ask all their suppliers and customers within the value chain for data set within sustainability. So it could have been like how much energy is used for that ingredient being produced before Musgrave is buying the ingredient, for instance. So that was kind of like the big regulation coming up. There's been a pause, a non-official pause, so it just means that the EU is still reviewing the directive at the moment, so we're not too sure what's going to happen, but it seems that the threshold to be scoped within the regulation are going to change, and a lot less businesses are going to have to report. This being said, regulation is going to come up down the line, and the more ready you are, the better you'll be to face those changes in regulation yourself and to be able to report and show your good credential. So I hope this gives you a good analysis of why you should do it, and that you're then ready to kind of like download the roadmap and get cracking. So that is my next slide, really, is so how do you do all this? And that's really what we wanted to help you with today. So at Guaranteed Irish, we developed the sustainability roadmap for our members back in October. We've done the work with KPMG and the Sustainability Futures service. So I really recommend them if you were to look at partnering with a sustainability consultant. We've done the roadmap. So it's a document that I can physically send you. If you're interested, just drop me an email there, or you can download it from our website or from the slide that we'll send you guys at the end of the workshop. And the roadmap goes alongside a sustainability hub on our website, where we have a few articles about how to use the roadmap, alternative sources of information to really get yourself started and going, where to find some information on green loans and information on support you might need. So the roadmap goes with the Sustainability Hub. So what's the roadmap? The first thing I want to say about the roadmap is that we have, I don't remember, I think it's 17 steps or 17 different things you could do. You need to think, the first thing you need to think is about materiality. What is relevant to my business? We talked a lot about energy just there, but if you're a service business, you might not have a huge energy input into your business. So energy might not be the right thing for you to look into it. You might need to be looking into your employees and your community because you'll have a bigger impact. So just think about materiality, and when you do the roadmap, just only do what's relevant to your business. The second aspect is proportionality. You need to take into account the size of your business and your direct impact. And that's for your investments in terms of manpower or money, really. So the roadmap has 3 different stages: foundation, implementation, and leadership. And the idea is that you start with the foundation stage, and then you move into implementation, and you move into leadership. You could pick and choose if you wanted, but they kind of go together, they kind of step within each stages. At foundation stage, we'll see that we're building already a lot on the commitment that our members have done. You know, as they join Guaranteed Irish, we know that they're providing quality jobs, they're supporting the community, and they're really good on provenance and governance. So it was important to us to show that a lot is done already in terms of foundation, that most businesses have put in place a good start, and that you're not having to start from scratch. So the job one will look at, you know, do you have your HR policy in place? Do you have health and safety in place? Have you thought about diversity inclusion? Same, remember, think about materiality there and proportionality. You don't need to have a diversity and inclusion policy, maybe if you're one man job, you know. So think about that when you look into the roadmap and the different things and activities you can do. So that's kind of like the job one. So it's thinking about your employees and how you help them developing in their jobs and in their skills. Then we got community engagement. So it's about supporting your community and your impact within your own community. And then provenance and governance, looking at transparency, regulation, you know, are you compliant with all the Irish regulations? So this we assume for our members that is done because we already assessed them. So that is great. And then in the foundation, we just ask them to go a bit further, to start aligning themselves with sustainability. And that's where we bring in the SDGs that we discussed earlier, the UN SDGs. So Sustainable Development Goals. And as I mentioned, there are 17 of them. So you have a really good chance that your business is matching a couple of them. And it started for you guys to think about what is sustainability, how it is interlinked, and how is my business going to impact on those different goals. So as much as aligning your business, it's for you to start to go on the journey of understanding what is sustainability. And the last step on this stage is around resource use and awareness. This is about thinking about what are your externalities? Do you use a lot of like water? Do you use a lot of energy? Do you use a lot of do you have a lot of employees to deliver your job and services? You know, what are your impacts on the environment, or what are your social impacts? So think about trying to map out what are your externalities, what are your big input into your business, and trying to then inform yourself on those. You know, is the waste, you know, I'm using a lot of water. What about the wastewater? I'm using a lot of plastic, and there's a lot of plastic waste out of my business. You know, I'm giving that to I'm outsourcing then for someone to take the plastic out of our business. And how is that happening then down the line for the plastic? So it's just kind of like getting yourself to understand a lot more outside your business within the value chain there. So that's the foundation stage. And once you've done this, we really believe that you can go into your implementation. And implementation is about really integrating the E, the S, and the G within your own operation. It's about looking at your internal processes and your efficiencies and starting to build long-term strategy. There, I would say that first step has to be done for all business, the sustainability strategy. And it's probably one of the steps where you need to maybe partner with a consultant or someone external to give you a good vision about your risk within your business and how other business within your industries are tackling those risks. So having the sustainability strategy, I think it will be very solid to bring the full roadmap. So also the sustainability strategy will help with your materiality assessment there, because double materiality will be part of this. So then once you've done that, it's looking at your staff engagement, baseline measurement. Data is a very important part of sustainability. You'll not be able to know if you're having some progress, if you haven't recorded some baseline data. So it's important you start measuring and recording your impact. Then you can look at carbon emissions. So this is where you might be looking at your different scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. I'm not going into all the details there, but it's just to show you the different steps of what can be done. And then energy efficiency, that will be looking at, the energy you're using for your business. Could you transition from fossil fuel to more renewable energy? Can you have a role to play there? And finally, circular economy. So same circular economy that will apply to yourself, depending on the business, that might apply to yourself or not. So that's what you need to decide when you do your sustainability strategy. So you see, you can stay in that implementation phase for quite a long time, and that's no problem. I think every business needs to understand that sustainability is an ongoing process, and you will always be better at what you're doing and find ways of using less energy, less waste, and you have to go back on those different steps as progress and innovations is coming up as well. But once you've done some of those steps of implementation, you can go into leadership, and that's where you kind of look at your supply chain diligence. So as I was saying to you guys earlier, it'll be good for entering new supply chain to have your ESG credential in place. But once you become yourself an expert, you can then demand of your own suppliers there to have their credential in place, and you can look into your value chain and look at your suppliers and making sure you have an ethical supplier code there, that you know about their environmental impact, so you become the leader within your own supply chain, and making sure you're asking all the questions and deciding what you do with that information as well, and if you're deciding to change suppliers or not. So your supplier ESG credential now are of interest to you to decide and to make the decisions there as well. And of course, the last step is to report and be transparent. So you should start with internal reporting. Once you've done your sustainability strategy, every year looking at your data, looking at the initiatives you decide to take, and then from there on, you've done your internal reporting, and then you can communicate with your customers and your business partners, and then you can do external reporting as well there. So we have a list of frameworks that you can be using for your report. A very interesting framework there, and something that's been talked a lot recently as to not replace CSRD, but to kind of still have a bit of a regulatory framework to be used, and that's kind of used at EU level, would be the VSME, so the Voluntary Reporting Standard for SME. And I really recommend you guys to maybe have a look on their website there, because it's a shorter version of CSRD, and it's really still around basically the minimum that is expected from SMEs in this domain. So that's kind of all the steps of the roadmap. Sorry, I forgot to move on my leadership there, but you can see the 3 different stages and all the steps. And how does it work then practically for the roadmap? Is that you can download the roadmap and print it, or I can send you the physical element, and you can see you have at the top there, you have a description of what's the stage and what needs to be done, and you have the time and effort as well. So time is about how many hours is going to be needed to complete the steps, and the effort is about how much money is going to be needed to complete the steps. So you can decide as well what's relevant for your business at the moment with the resources that you have. So you can look at this and the different steps and stages. And then I give you an activity checklist. So there as well, you can have a look at what you're already doing and ticking the box. And then you can see where the gaps within that steps, and if it's of relevance to your business and proportional to what you're trying to achieve. And then I think what's very important as well is that I give you some KPIs there that, they're examples of KPI. You might think of others within your own business context, but that way you can set yourself, with clear indicator of what good is going to look like, of how many of those you're going to try to achieve. So that way you're setting yourself for success. And here is a kind of next step. I've talked there for 34 minutes already. And what I would like you guys to think about and be doing in the next couple of weeks really is to maybe start by downloading the roadmap, having a look at your current sustainability stages. So to do this, I would just take 40 minutes of your time going through all the roadmap, reading all the steps, and then checking the activity checklist there and see if you can yourself look at the KPIs. Are we reporting on those KPIs? Are we not reporting on those KPIs? And see where are the gaps? Where are you very good at? Have you done all of this already? And, give yourself a bit of a pat in the back as well, or your colleagues, and to say, you know what, we're doing quite all right on, jobs, community, on energy. We've done a lot on energy already, because you might have done all those things naturally to try to improve your business or to be strategic within your business. So I'd say this is really the first step. And then once you've done that, you can look at the areas where you're not as good, but that's okay. You got time to put that in place. So look at the areas where maybe you could do a bit more, circularity, for instance. You do get a lot of waste and you don't really know where that is going. And is there a better way to do that? Can we kind of reuse some of this? So kind of like try to then decide on the focus, choose 2 or 3 steps then and set yourself some short-term goal. This could be also, we don't have a sustainability strategy, or we've done one a few years back and we never look at it again. So that could be just starting with this sustainability strategy, and that's it for the rest of 2025, and that'll be absolutely fine to do that. Then I really think what's really important is not to do that on your own. So you need to engage your stakeholders, so engage your colleagues, engage all your employees there, run some round tables, try to hear their feedback, because there might be things that you don't know that are happening that are impacting, ESG there, but also do that with your suppliers, customers, and your local community. That will give you a good idea as well of what to do next and what's important to them. And then finally, keep learning, keep leveraging resources. So the Sustainability Hub that I discussed is a good one, but HRLocker is a great blog as well with a lot of resources there. And they're great on all the kind of like social and employee aspect. And they can support you there as well, because sustainability is people driven in a way. You need to use your people within your business to develop it and implement it. So this is always important to put the people first, and HRLocker definitely does that. And finally, if you think you're doing very well on jobs, community, and provenance, feel free to join Guaranteed Irish to get your G and to use the national symbol of trust there on your website. And I'd love to hear from you guys.
Thanks, Clem. And can I say, I think for just our own journey that we've been on here at HRLocker is, somebody asked a question, is how do you perform a risk analysis, and does it require an external organization? So I think for me, my learning was that you can get a company to come in and review everything that you're doing, but actually sitting down and going through, what you're doing. If you sit down and go through it step by step, right, and you're actually doing a lot more than you think you're doing.
A lot of those steps, a lot of those things, you can really do it yourself, really, by just taking the time. There's a lot of resources out there, be on both our website or out there from even the government. They have a lot of like framework available. There's a lot of like lovely risk registers there as well available, that are quite easy to follow, and they really make you think about all those risks, and they have all the different categories well outlined. So I think it's not an easy one to do, because you have to think about a lot of different things, but I think you can do it really with your team by sitting down and give yourself the time. And the more involved is the team, the better your solutions are going to be, and the more resilient your solutions are going to be. So I think for things like risk register, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, but the best way is to really involve as many people as possible.
Yeah, I totally agree, because we did a sustainability task force, and the things that people came up with were totally different to what I would have thought.
Yeah.
Even just a really small example, and I use this example all the time, is we were trying to pick out the SDGs for our own company, and one of them was water conservation, and I was like, we're in Ireland, we're okay. But we have a number of employees in Spain, and that was really important to them from that.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just figuring out what's important to people. And the other one, which was really interesting, is, again, I wouldn't ever had come up with this myself, was we obviously are a Microsoft Azure company, so our data is stored in Microsoft, and from a Microsoft perspective, of course, they give you all the green stuff and says that you're massively ticked, but the developers were saying, okay, well, let's review all the servers that we're using and see, can we actually, from a digital waste perspective, can we reduce?
That's great.
That?
Yeah, I guess you're an online business, so
I would never have thought of it, you know.
Yeah, like there's a lot of data there. It's great. No, well done. But that's it. Like having as many perspective that you can have from different teams, and as you say, from different countries there, it's very
Yeah.
interesting in the current context. Yeah.
I just have a question here for you mentioned minimum requirements for CS from a CSRD perspective.
Yeah.
Where can these be found and what are they?
So I don't have the new ones in mind, but like before everybody was kind of like thinking, oh my God, it's happening. It's because businesses over 250 employees with a turnover of 50 million and assets of 25 millions in their balance sheet. So if you had two out of those threes, you were going to be scoped for 2026. So you'll have to report on your 2025 data. So that's why everybody was started like to panic, kind of like when we launched that roadmap. I think you remember, Crystel, in the room, like everybody was like, what does that mean? So since they've really like upped the threshold and remove, I think, 85% or 90% of all the companies that were going to be scoped. However, most consultants will tell you that this is still in the Irish law at the moment. This hasn't been changed. So companies that were already set up and ready to kind of like be compliant and report are probably still going to do it and still going to ask SMEs within their value chain for their data set. So the more ready you are, the better. And you'll reuse this information anyway. So it's good to have it. So we're in a bit of a weird spot there in terms of regulation because it might take, I think the final review is kind of like September, October. So we won't know for sure. And we're not sure when Ireland is going to then put that into their own, regulation and law there. So the advice I was given is to keep going, even if that might change. The minimum there, I'd say, is to look at the VSME. If you just Google VSME, they come up the first website usually, and they have their final report recently there, and you can look. So it's a a few data sets under the E, the S, and the G, and most of them are quite obvious. You would have this data already, but you might be able to start putting a framework about where is the data and how to put it together and how to kind of like report on it maybe every 6 months or every year.
Yeah, and I would say even just from our own side of things is that a lot of the bigger companies that we would tend to work for, even though we're not legally required to do the reporting, they're expecting that we have reports in place. So
Yeah.
I would totally agree with you that even though the SME market may not be mandated to do it, we are in the supply chain of people
Exactly.
require us to do it.
Yeah.
So I think
And I
that's
think it really shows your proactivity as well and how much you understand your business. So I think in terms of a big, if you like Musgrave or Ballymore, with I'm just looking at our members there, if I know their suppliers are proactive in the space and they're ready, then they're probably going to go back to them first for new project and new ideas. So I think it really helps with your own business. It's really a strategic advantage because not everybody's doing it, otherwise we won't be there today. So you can really at the moment use that as a difference.
I also think, and the event that you were talking about in October, a lot of people kind of it reminded me of the fuss around GDPR when it came in, and everybody was
exactly
part of it. And now GDPR is just something that we do.
And we all know about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we'll come to that. It is going to be just expected. And I think important that I've learned over the last few months is that just because you can't affect global warming or minimum wage in Guatemala or whatever, that you can still do something really small, and like you said, Clémence, is sponsoring your local GA team or making sure that the laptops that you have are of a good sustainability level, good energy saving level. Those just kind of small things.
And those small things help you getting out of the climate doom, feeling that you're really doing, at your own level, doing something, it's really good. And I found talking to my colleagues about sustainability is great because we all have different ideas. We all have different ways of doing things for ourselves, but also for the business. And it's it's really rich, those conversations, and they really help you getting out of that, maybe that climate, doom that I have. I mean, I guess I'm a bit more
Greenwashing
in
sometimes.
the
Yeah.
space, things like even today I'm a bit like, oh, it's great, it's lovely and warm, but this is not normal. We should not rejoice too much. And but then I try to need to put a different framework in my head to be like, no, but we're doing a lot of things trying to change that. But at the end of the day, we're doing all this to kind of save the climate and the planet. I didn't touch much on this because not really my area of expertise, but it's very unlikely we're going to keep 1.5 degree of global warming. I think we're going more towards 2. And if you start reading about this, that really gets you going into, we need to get it going, but it could also be a bit scary. So bringing it back to the things you can do within your business or within your personal life really helped, and for your mind and your outset of life.
There's just a question here that who did I include in the sustainability task force, and did I make it voluntary? So I'll have a good task force, and I was actually real surprised. I spoke to you about this. We had about 14 or 15 people who voluntarily went on it. Usually, I have to force people to come on the task force.
Yeah.
So, and everybody had a totally different reason for doing it.
Yeah.
Some people were vegan, some people were just interested in doing it. So
I think you need to have a few people that really are passionate about it, and you'll be surprised about who's passionate about sustainability within your team. And then you need to have a couple of the people that would, within their role, like I think I'm in an operations role, so ultimately it comes onto my shoulders to kind of do it. So you need to have a mix about those two, but do not exclude people that have the passion, even if you don't think they are in a field that is going to really do something for ESG, because they might be the drive and the energy that you need to do the sustainability. It's not going to be just a 3 month task force. Unfortunately, you'll have to go about it again and again and again. And I'm actually at the ESG summit at the same time today as I'm doing this, and one of the speakers said earlier this morning that sustainability strategy, they shouldn't really be separated from your corporate strategy. We're going to come to a point where you're not going to do a risk register specifically for ESG. It's going to be part of your normal risk register. It's going to be part of your normal corporate strategy, and we're not going to have to single out sustainability. And I almost wish there'd be no head of sustainability or sustainability lead. I almost hope we all had that within our own job responsibility. I think that'd be a much better way of implementing sustainability, because if you put it on the shoulders of one department set aside in an office to try to do it all for everybody, it is too isolating, and it's not how you get quick long-term results, really. So
I also think, Clémence, sometimes, I'm sure it was you who said it, but I'll give you the credit anyway, is I think a lot of the environmental side of it kind of hijacked the green, the sustainability word. So it's so much more than that. It is about job sustainability as well. And it's about the sustainability of your company. It's not just about the environment. And before starting this journey, that's, I suppose, what I kind of thought that our strategy would be, making sure we're separating our waste and making sure we're using energy, but it's so much more than that.
It is so much more than this. I mean, the environment is a big part of it, but social, your employee, the quality of work for your employee, health and safety, this is a big part of sustainability as well, because it's people driven, very much people driven, from the consequences to how we can implement the solution. And governance without, regulation. I know CSRD is probably going to be posed or watered down a bit, but we need regulation as well, and we need compliance too, or all the rules are already in place for good business and CSR. But yes, it's a lot more than just the environment, even if the environment is a big part. But at Guaranteed Irish, we always say we're not an environmental agency. This is not a role. We're actually trying to shine a spotlight on the other element of ESG, which sometimes we say was the S and the G, and then the E comes naturally. If you really care about your community, and you live within your community, I guess you're not putting the wastewater in the stream where all the kids are paddling. It kind of like there is a natural link. I know it's not always often, and it's not always the case, and there are regulation in place and the EPA, all of that. But if you have a good sense of your business and your impact and how it helps your community, you naturally try to do the right thing for the environment as well.
And that's actually one of the comments here is this is often tagged onto environment, health and safety, basically, but it needs to underpin all policies. And
exactly,
I think
yeah.
where
Exactly.
the danger of it just becoming an environmental thing was actually so much more than that, you know.
And to stop the fight between, it's all for the environment and what about the people, it's all together. It's not about trying to give maybe better salaries to employees on one side and then trying to, save the environment the other side. It has to go all together. Like us human, we're part of our environment. So we need to not be forgotten as well, but we not need to be in competition with the environment.
As well. And then from a purely selfish business perspective, I suppose that what kicked me into I'll be very honest, what kicked me down the road of ESG and CSRD was I was at an Enterprise Ireland event about 12 months ago, and they said, if you want a grant or any funding, you're going to have to put in a sustainability roadmap.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a big driver. And actually, when we did that with KPMG, 8 months ago, they were telling us how when finance is really going to start implementing all what they have in mind in terms of like green finance and all that, businesses are going to, scrabble to try to do it, because you're going to, the premium is going to be the other way around. If you're not aligned with ESG, you're going to pay a premium on all your loan rates and everything and your repayment rates. So it really makes sense now to work on it so that when it's all kicking into place, you're ready and you're getting the best rate for your money. And there's a lot of grants at the moment to get help and support. If you want to have a consultant to help you with sustainability strategy, Enterprise Ireland is definitely some money there to help you fund that. You can go on our website as well. There's a few consultants there that can help you in different aspects of your roadmap and what the needs you have. But there's definitely a lot of funding available to get it done, or to get you started at least. And then you should see that what implement strategy you start to implementing, this should kind of like drive, in a medium term, then results and improve your margin, etc.
And here's my last plug is that if you've gone through the Guaranteed Irish membership, then you have probably answered a lot of these questions already. And that's what we would look at from an appraisal perspective, is to what are you doing for job creation? What are you doing for job sustainability? What are you doing in the community? And so you are probably so much further down the path than you think you are.
Exactly. Definitely, as you do the assessment and the application form, you'll have to think of all those things, and you almost should keep, when you receive at the end, you click submit, and then you'll receive by email your own application form, and it's almost already not a third, like a fifth of the roadmap done. If you want to know, if you've done that, because you would have put together all your policies, all your community commitment there, and you had a lovely pack almost ready to then discuss this with your employee, discuss this with your consumers, or discuss this with businesses you're pitching in. So I welcome everyone to get in touch with us to become a member for sure. My emails will be shared in the presentation later on, and I'd love to have the chats, really.
Yes, and thank you so much. You've been great. We've scheduled this for a long time, and I've been really looking forward to it. Just a bit of hobby horse of mine that it's one of these things that I'm just like, just get started. You're so much further than you are, and it's I think even though I'm a little bit disappointed from the CSRD reporting being pushed back, but I actually think that the self-reporting, the VSME is great, and I would definitely.
It's a good start. If all business were doing this already, I think it would be.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a huge overhead, So anyway,
it doesn't have to be.
Thank you very much. We will share all your details. If anybody'd like to contact Clem directly, you're also on LinkedIn, and I would also, like I said, we've been members for the last few years, and the events are great, people are great, and it was actually a community that I suppose we hadn't availed of before. So I would leave. That's my pitch done.
Brilliant. Thanks, Crystel.
So thank you very much, everybody. And if there's any questions, please. I actually want more comment here, which I think is great, is your local enterprise office, if you meet the criteria, can avail of a free 2-day sustainability audit. So definitely we've done the Enterprise Ireland Green grant, isn't it? Green program. So I would it was
recommend them
go through, and the local enterprise I know have a similar one. So definitely gets you to start, and just ring Clem, she'll tell you how to do it.
Exactly. Brilliant. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much, everybody. Take care. Hope you enjoy the rest of the ESG summit.
Thank you very much. Bye. Bye.
Bye.